Hello again, Sandy Bates here, President of the United States Health Foundation. We're going to discuss Chapter 2 in our manual on health coach certification for the review for our exam. This chapter is effective communication. One of the most important skills that we have as a health coach in our toolbox is effective communication. And when we speak about communication, the most important aspect is listening. The importance of developing and using good communication skills is the difference between advising your client and coaching your client. Health coaching involves listening to the client and helping them to facilitate a lifestyle change that incorporates, as discussed before, physical activity, nutrition, stress reduction, and healthy lifestyle choices. Knowing when to listen to the client is the key to effective communication. Listening carefully and staying fully engaged during each client encounter will help you determine whether it's time to teach, advise, or coach. Sometimes we have to teach. It's not just all coaching, but the majority of our communication skills will be asking questions, listening attentively, following up with our questions, and then helping our client determine what would be a good area to start in first in the behavioral change process. When communicating with a client, the focus should stay on the needs, desires, and goals of the individual being coached. Coaching clients as opposed to advising them isn't easy when you're in the expert position such as you are, and you possess information that would make a difference in your clients' lives. Do you think it's possible that we tell people too much? Yes. Do you think it's possible that we tell people things that aren't important to them? Yes. Do you think we tell things to people that they have no confidence in that they can achieve? Yes. We want to find a way to draw out of our client their needs, desires, and goals. That's called intrinsic motivation. It's much more powerful than extrinsic, telling people what to do. There's different types of communication. This is easy. There's verbal, I'm talking to you. There's nonverbal, which is very important. These are physical ways of communication like touch, smell, and body motion. We have to be careful of our nonverbals that we send out to our clients, and we have to be attentive of their nonverbals that they're sending back to us. And there's written and visual communication. There's a lot of barriers to good communication skills. One of them is eliminating differences in perception. People have to understand what your goals are working with people to help them change behaviors. Active listening is one of these, that we don't listen very carefully. We don't hear the proper message that's heard. So active listening means hearing with proper understanding of the message that's heard. We've got to understand what these people are saying to us. If we don't assume. I will ask people, can you expand or elaborate on that? I'll ask people, if I ask them, what are you looking to accomplish? I want to lose weight. I don't stop there. I say, is there anything else? And I keep saying anything else until I get a list. We got to be careful with information overload, and we have to have timelines for reaching goals. People want things very quickly these days. And we mentioned in our first chapter, it can take 6 months to change a behavior and lock it into part of our lifestyle. Some barriers to effective listening is knowing the answer. You know the answers to the questions people are going to ask you. You've been well trained and you've been practicing probably for years. And this is a form of prejudgment. As someone starts to ask you a question, you're now listening to talk. Your brain is formulating an answer after 1 or 2 trigger words have been spoken to you. That way, you probably aren't hearing specifically what this person's saying to you. So we want to make sure that we listen to them all the way through their process. And then a good skill is to pause for a few seconds and formulate your answer. This is a very difficult behavioral change. We're very time urgent and we have people waiting for us. We might be multitasking, but it pays to listen to people and make sure you understand what they're saying. So a simple strategy for overcoming the knowing the answer barrier is to wait a few seconds. Sometimes we try to be too helpful. We're nice, we're encouraging, we're enthusiastic. Those are all good traits, but they generally don't change behavior. There's a concept called mixing up the forest and the trees, and this is an old saying, but I like forest. Those are big topics like nutrition, physical activity. We want to make sure people understand the forest before we get into all the little tree information. It can be very confusing, for example, with nutrition, to start talking about all the different aspects that are involved. We want to make sure they get the big principles. And in my book later on nutrition, we have some major principles or concepts that I always make sure people understand those before we get into other issues. There's teaching and learning styles. There's an acronym called VARK. This is actually on page 22. And there's visual. People learn best by seeing. Some learn best by hearing. Some do by reading or writing. I like kinesthetic, doing, making sure that they do it. There is a test question regarding using web chatting, email, speaking, mobile phones. I don't know why web chatting and email fall in this category, but it's under oral or auditory, so be careful on that question. And that's a very quick chapter on communication, and we'll move on in the next recording for more in-depth drilling down into motivational interviewing. So that's the end of chapter 2.